Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you. And together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. My name is Emily. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. This is Emily, your host, and I am so happy to have you here with me for another day of chatting about spirituality and learning how to be and exist as a spiritual person in this world full of very normal people. I know what it feels like to be a normal person and suddenly be awakened to this entire world of spirituality and of non-physical magic that exists around us. It's like the most shocking experience I have ever had. And so I hope that through this podcast, I can be your friend, be a guide, be a mentor, be a partner right alongside you on the path of discovering how to move through the world with this new awareness that it's not just a physical life we're living. There's also our energy and the energy of the universe and spirit and our guides and our loved ones who have passed that are here with us all the time. And our existence is so much more than just the physical life that we're leading. So today's episode is actually going to be a little bit different than the other episodes I've recorded. And that's because today I want to talk to you about something that I don't feel like I have fully grasped. I don't feel like I have a complete, full understanding, and I don't feel like it's something I've been able to completely apply to my life, but it is something that Spirit has continually focused me back to. And what we're talking about today is the concept of growing holistically. And what I mean by that is acknowledging the connection between our spiritual growth and our physical life. And I want to talk about connecting those two and really talk about the fact that I have always viewed my spirituality as completely separate from my physical life. But Spirit keeps showing me in so many ways that there is no separation. My physical life, my spiritual life, I don't have these two lives. I have one, and they are connected. They are the same. And the only separation is that separation that I've created in my brain. And so I want to talk to you about how our growth is holistic. It's in all the areas of our life because we are not a bunch of fractions, a bunch of fractured parts of a person. There's not spiritual Emily and physical Emily. There's only Emily. There's not spiritual you and relationship you and career you and healthy you. There's not all these fractured parts of you. There's just the one you. And Spirit keeps showing me and bringing me back to this fact that if I want to grow in one of these areas of my life, I have to acknowledge that that growth has to be holistic, that there is a limit to how much I can grow in one area of my life if I don't also include the whole me in this growth. And like I said, this is something I'm still learning to understand. This is something that Spirit's been delivering me messages about for a very long time. I mean, honestly, several months, maybe a year, I don't know, because since my spiritual awakening began, one thing that has always confused me and always consumed my thoughts is how do I incorporate this very non-physical feeling of being connected to spirit and connected to this unseen world? How do I connect that with my actual physical life? Like, I have to do things like do the dishes and cook dinner and take care of my family and drive places. Like, these things are so not spiritual in my mind. Like, how do I connect that everyday living, very non glamorous living? How do I connect that with the feeling that I am connected to God? These things feel so separate to me. This desire and connection that I have in my soul of living this big, meaningful, purposeful life, and then the reality of my life that, like, oh, I have to like pay my bills and do these very like physical things that don't feel like they're in the same energy as the spiritual awakening that I've been experiencing. So I just want to let you know this is something I'm still working through, and I am still learning and still growing and still discovering deeper and deeper what it means to be a spiritually connected and spiritually awakened person. I'm still learning how to live this spiritual life. And I hope here by sharing with you what I'm learning so far, even though I haven't figured this out, I hope that by sharing with you what I have learned up until this point and the things that Spirit has been showing me, there's a couple visions I want to share with you for how Spirit's helping me to understand this better. And I hope that by sharing it, that I give you some clarity in your own understanding of how to live your physical life as a spiritual person. I also just hope that it shows you that I don't think there's an end to this spiritual journey. We can always go deeper and deeper and deeper into our understanding of this connection with spirit and into our intention of living this life in a spiritual way, living this life in a way that honors our soul, that honors our connection to spirit, to the divine, but also in a way that enhances our physical experience of this world. Because while we are this beautiful soul, we also have this incredible physical body that allows us to experience the physical world. And I think that when we leave the earth, we no longer have the ability to have those physical experiences. I think when we leave the earth, we leave it as a soul, as an energy. And while we are here on earth, well, I feel so compelled to continuously connect deeper and deeper with the energy and with my soul. I also know that my time in this physical body is limited. And I think that it's important to recognize that we have such a beautiful opportunity here on earth to have the physical experiences of this human life. Things like hugging and the sense of physical adventure and adrenaline and the just the physical connections that we're able to have and physical sensations as a human, because our time to experience it, I think that it's limited. I think that when we leave this earth, we're a soul and we get to live in that beautiful energy of love, but we also no longer have the ability to like touch the flowers and smell them. We don't have that physical connection anymore. So I'm still learning how to honor both of those aspects of me, the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect. And what I want to talk about today is bringing those two things together. I want to talk about the fact that our physical being and our spiritual being are actually not separate. They're one. It's not two fractions of us or a million fractions of us. It's one. It's whole. It's this coming together that I want to talk about. And it's not even a coming together, it's the fact that we've always been one and we always will be one. The fractioning, the separation that we feel is our human brain trying to categorize and make sense of these aspects of ourselves that feel dissonance. They feel like they don't fit. And while I'm talking about this, I hope you'll give me some grace because I really want to emphasize that we're one, that we're just one being. But in my language, I may continue to say that we're separate because I'm trying to incorporate this belief into me, but it's not fully integrated yet. I haven't fully figured it out. So just bear with me and have some grace as I try to explain what I've learned so far on this path of recognizing myself as one holistic being rather than a bunch of separate things. So I want to share with you the visions that Spirit has been showing me to try and bring me around to this fact that I'm not as separate as I view myself to be. So there's two different ways that Spirit has shown this to me that have been really impactful in the last several months. The first one I want to share with you is recently, as I was thinking about how I really want to grow more in my spiritual development. I have been so fortunate to be able to do readings for people, and I really want to enhance my ability to do these spiritual readings for people and be able to connect on a deeper level with other people's energy and with the spiritual guidance that I receive for them. And so I've really, really been focusing on developing that. And I was meditating and kind of like, Spirit, I want to go further, but I feel like I'm capped. I feel like I've hit some sort of wall. Like I want to develop further and expand this, but there's something in the way. And I was asking for guidance in how I could continue that growth even further and continue it in the way that I can see it developing in my mind's eye. And what Spirit showed me was a line of people holding hands. Sort of like if you ever played the game Red Rover as a kid, that's what it made me think of. Just a bunch of people in a line holding hands. And each person in this line represented an aspect of my life that I viewed as separate. So, like in this example, I was really focused on my spirituality and developing my spiritual connection and my ability to receive meaningful messages for people. So one of these people in the vision represented my spiritual growth and my spiritual path. And what I saw was that if I try to advance my spiritual self, I try to walk that aspect of myself forward, I can only take a couple steps before that aspect of myself is held back by the hands of the other people, the other aspects of myself that it's holding on to. I hope that makes sense. And so it showed me that there's a limit to how much each aspect of myself can advance when I'm trying to live my life as all of these separate pieces. And Spirit is showing me that actually they're all connected, they're all related, they're all one. All of these ways that I have split up myself, split up my life, split up who I am, they're not separate like I am trying to create them. And if I want to advance in one area of my life without being held back, without that limitation, I have to be willing to advance all the areas of my life. There's a balance and a connection that needs to be recognized that I have been ignoring. And Spirit's showing me I can't hyper focus on one thing and ignore everything else, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I just like, let me get really good at this and then I'll take care of everything else later. But Spirit's showing me it doesn't work that way. I am one person. My life is all of these aspects together, and it has to advance together. It has to move forward together. All of these aspects, these people have to step forward together. And how I see it is that I can step forward this spiritual aspect of me, this spiritual connection. I can step it forward 1, 2, maybe 3 steps. But when I get to trying that third step, there's some resistance because I'm being held back by these other parts of me that aren't advancing at the same rate. And so when that happens, then I need to look at these other areas of my life and advance them as well. I don't think it means that all the areas of my life have to take a step forward at the exact same time. That doesn't make sense to me. Instead, what I see is I step forward in this spirituality and I feel the tension that I can't step forward any farther. And that's when I know, okay, I need to step back and look at the other areas of my life where I've been ignoring and step those forward as well. And keep stepping forward outward to all these people holding hands, all these aspects holding hands, and sort of bring everything into a balance. And I can step forward a few steps in each area of my life at a time. It doesn't have to be a perfect straight line, but I do have to recognize that I can't just bolt one area forward, like one little area can't sprint and be so much farther than everything else. There is a connection and there is a balance that I have to find between moving forward in one area and moving forward in all the other areas of my life, because I can't break that connection. I can't ignore everything else and pretend that it isn't there. And so, like I'm saying, the major way I've been seeing this is the connection between my spiritual life and my physical life, and me trying to learn and understand how they are the same life. They're the same thing, and I cannot advance in one area without also advancing in the other. And so if I want to continue to grow, I have to also put the effort into my physical life that I'm putting into my spiritual life and my spiritual connection. And those are just two things, but it applies to all the areas of your life. So, well, that's the focus for me. For you, it may be you see your life separated into like relationships and into money and career and emotional healing and education and self-worth and spiritual growth. And maybe you are seeing separation in different ways than I'm seeing separation in your life, is all I'm trying to say. And there can be a million different ways that you've fractioned off yourself, that you've fractioned off your life. And what I just want to share with you is Spirit is showing me that if we want growth in one area, we have to recognize that we are also going to have to tend to these other areas of our life in order to achieve what we are trying to achieve. We can't be so singularly focused that we ignore everything else, because we are a holistic being. We are a being with so many different facets and aspects. We have our spiritual self, our physical body, our emotional self, our mental self. We have all of these different aspects, and they're all one, and they all grow and advance together. And if we want to reach our full potential of what we can be and what we can achieve in this life, we have to look at ourselves as this holistic being and be willing to do the work in all of these areas, because if we try to ignore one, it will hold us back. We won't be able to advance where we want to if we just ignore one aspect and refuse to do the work there. So that is the first vision that Spirit brought to me about this. And I want to share with you one other way that Spirit has shown this to me that's kind of a different perspective on how I'm starting to see this connection and this oneness. So a few months ago, I joined a running group. And I don't know why, I just feel like I have to say I'm not a very good runner. But I joined this running group because I wanted to make friends who were also interested in health and fitness. And I wanted to, just start taking care of my body more. And so I joined this running group, and it was a group of moms who all run with strollers. So it's all moms with young kids, and we run and we push our strollers with our babies. And this is my first time really running consistently with a stroller, and I started getting a lot of bad neck pain and shoulder pain after running. So I asked one of the more experienced runners in the group about it. And what she told me about this pain I kept getting in my neck, she said, I needed to loosen my grip on the stroller because when I was pushing the stroller, the tension in my hands from gripping the stroller so tightly, it was traveling up my arm and to my shoulder and to my neck and causing this pain in my neck. But it was the tension in my hand that was causing the pain in my neck. And when she said that to me, it was like this light bulb went off in my head. And she probably thought I was crazy because I looked at her like in shock. Because when she said that, I realized, holy cow, this is my life. She's telling me about my physical body, but this applies to my life. And I realized that the tension that I hold in one area of my life, it doesn't stay in that little bubble, in that little box that I tried to put the different areas of my life into. That tension doesn't stay there. It travels because my life, me, Emily, I'm not all of these separate boxes. I'm one person. And so the tension that I feel in one area of my life, it travels to the other areas of my life because it's not separate. It's all connected. So just this aspect of spirit showing me this connection was this realization that I can't ignore the tension. I can't ignore the discontent. I can't ignore the healing that needs done in one area of my life and also expect myself to be able to grow in other areas. I can grow, but there's a limit because that tension doesn't stay in one area of my life. It affects my whole holistic self. And so growth, expansive, unlimited growth cannot happen unless I recognize all the aspects of myself, unless I recognize the tension that I'm holding in these areas that I've tried to box off, in these areas that I've tried to ignore, because who wants to deal with healing, right? That sounds like it sucks. Just being so honest here. But the reality is that ignoring the healing, ignoring the work, ignoring the tension and emotion that needs to be dealt with doesn't keep it in a box for later. It holds you back in all the other areas of your life because it's all connected and it's creating a limit to your growth by hanging on to this tension. And gosh, and she was just saying, just loosen your grip. And I'm like, geez Louise, do I need to loosen my grip on life? And this woman, she's so kind to like teach me about running, and she had no idea that she was delivering me this life lesson. And that's just one of the magical ways that spirit communicates with us, through these unexpected avenues. And I had such a realization in this conversation with her. And so this topic has just been so profound to me because since I began my spiritual awakening, I've been trying desperately to figure out how spirituality actually fits into my physical life. As I was saying in the beginning, it's like this incredible love and connection that I feel in meditation and in sessions where I'm connecting to energy and connecting to spirit and delivering these life-changing messages to people. It feels so much at contrast with my physical world. This whole time, I've really been struggling to understand how those two worlds could fit together. And it's funny because even in the introduction to this podcast, one of the things I talk about is bridging the gap between your physical life and your soul self. And the reason I talk about bridging the gap is because in my mind, I've always seen the physical and the soul as separate. So even the statement, bridging the gap, is saying that they're separate when Spirit is slowly bringing me around to the understanding that that separation is only in my perception. The connection, the overlap, the interconnectedness, it has always been there. The two realities There have never been two realities except for in my mind. In truth, there's one reality, there's one me. That separation is my human brain trying to make sense of things, trying to categorize things, trying to explain how they're different so that I can make sense of this in my life. These visions from spirit have really been trying to show me that that separation isn't real. That separation is an illusion, and that there's actually just one me, just one life. There's not all these fractions that I've broken myself off into. So like I said, this episode is a little different because usually I like to leave you with a practice to apply the concepts that I've discussed. But this topic is something I'm still growing through, something I'm still trying to understand, and something I'm still trying to integrate into my own life. My own understanding is not totally there yet, but I wanted to share with you what I'm learning anyways. Maybe this conversation will spark some understanding within you. Maybe it will give you a little aha moment and some clarity into your own journey of understanding how we can be both physical and soul, both here in this world physically and also so deeply connected on a spiritual and on a non-physical level. So I don't have a assignment for you today. I don't have a practice for you to try and integrate this into your life. All I have for you is my musings, my thoughts, my visions, and my journey so far in understanding how these two realities are actually one, how my physical and my spiritual are actually the same, and how I'm not a fractured being, but I'm just one. I'm just Emily. And that's it. Hopefully, our discussion gives you something to think about. I say discussion, but I'm just talking at you, so I guess it's not much of a discussion. But hopefully, listening to this has given you something to think about, has given you maybe just something to consider in your own life and in your own experience of being a spiritually awakened person in a very physical world. And if you want to chat about this further, be sure to find me on Instagram. I'd love to chat with you and just, I don't know, just think about this further, hear your perspective, hear your understanding, because like I said, I'm still on this journey, and hearing from you, hearing from other spiritual people can help me better my understanding. I think that it's one of the most beautiful ways to grow spiritually is to have these really thoughtful, kind of philosophical sometimes conversations about our spiritual journey. And I love hearing the perspectives of other people. So you can find me on Instagram at Suddenly Spiritual if you want to chat further. And thanks for listening today. I truly hope that it's been helpful. I truly hope I've given you a little something to consider and maybe a little better understanding of our existence as both this beautiful spiritual energy soul and this very physical human existing in this world. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll chat with you again soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.